In this video lesson, we're gonna start to work with Netron, doing our first steps. We're gonna take it nice and slow. We're gonna increase the level of difficulty, and we're gonna work more with the interface video by video. Now, we already introduced the Netron software in another video, so how you can download and install it, where you can find it, and we saw that it's used mainly for compositing, so doing video effects and like montages. Now we start to talk about a little bit the how it works. So basically, when you have software like Netron, you need an input. So you need to bring in some content, and then you need an output. So you need to export what you're doing in the software itself. Now in Netron, this is called read and write, which means you need to read something, which is going to be something that is going to come in like an input, and then you're going to write something at the end, which is going to be your output. Now, at the moment, you can see in the interface, we don't have anything except this little box, which is called the viewer. Now, this little box represents what you're seeing in the viewer panel, which is the panel above. And right now, we don't have anything. We don't have any input. We don't have any output, nothing but, like an empty container. So we need to start to fill this container with some content, and we're gonna start working with nodes. Really simple, really easy. Now, everything we do in every course, we start from the beginning. So don't worry, we're gonna start with really basic things for everyone. So if you're not a beginner, you can just jump ahead. This is for the ones that never used like a node editor before, or never used Natron before. So I'm going to open a folder here, and the quickest way we can bring in some content is just dragging and dropping inside the node graph. Just like that, clicking and dragging with the left mouse and dropping inside the node graph area. Now, if you want to know more about your file, you can right click and go in the properties, and here you can discover many information that can be useful. Like this is MP4, so it's a video, and I'm using VLC Media Player to open it up and to play it back. You can also change the software to view it outside Netron, and you'll find also video guides about VLC Media Player, how you can download it, install it. And then there you have some details on the right, like the resolution, which means how many pixels your video contains and how long it is, so the duration. And then you have other, more advanced information like the bit rate for the audio, for the video. You can discover a lot of things just by right clicking and going into the properties directly in Windows or wherever operative system you're using. Now we have the possibility to use other formats like images and etc. But let's start with the video. So I'm going to click and drag the video inside the node graph editor. When I release the left mouse, that's going to drop it. And if I am close to the viewer node, if you see there, it just appeared. And let's go now back in Netron. So it automatically created a link between the content, that is this one here called read one. So I can also click and drag with the left mouse again, this node on the side, and I can see now better the link that has been generated automatically by the software, and you can see the title of the asset you're using, and you can move it around. You can see also the format. So you can click and drag, organize the node graph however you want. It's going to be, an organizer here basically of everything that you're going to use, and it will help you manage all the assets, all the links, and all the nodes. So I can move them around by selecting them and move them around. And I can also um, rearrange and, well, right now we are displaying also something in the viewer because that's the input right now. So we are sending information into the viewer. And so if I look up in the viewer panel, so whatever happens in the node graph, it's going to have also a reaction in the viewer. So everything is connected here. So now we are seeing in the viewer the video that we just imported. You can also check the properties again. So here you find the possibility to modify, edit, and read the properties for the assets that you're importing. For example, the directory there, I can see where the asset is stored. Remember that that's the link. So if you change the name of the directory or the name of the file, you're gonna have some issues. And then you have information about the frames, because even though we are using a video, we're working with static frames, and so we have a number of frames. And also you can click and drag the various panels here, the properties. You can move around in the edge, or also the viewers. You can expand them. You can basically manage and organize the overall layout of the software however you want. So if I want a bigger viewer, so I want to see better, I can click and drag down on that edge between the node graph and the viewer, and you can see that now I have a bigger viewer. So it's probably better if I want to check what's happening there, because basically the viewer is showing us the final, well, a preview of what the final result will be, of what we will export or output. So basically you can rearrange these panels as you like, as you prefer, but sometimes you could get messy for whatever reason. Now in that case, if we go up here in the menus, we can go in the layout menu and go to the restore default layout. If you click there, it's just going to restore the layout as it was at the beginning. So don't, fear to experiment and play around with the interface, because you can always retrieve the original interface or original layout just by going into the restore in the layout menu. So again, I can, move around nodes. I can also navigate inside these various panels. So if I scroll the scroll wheel, I can zoom in and zoom out. If I press the scroll wheel, I can pan really easy with everything, in your mouse. And so you can select with the left mouse. You can also navigate in the viewer as well. So, and also you can navigate in the timeline, because you have the viewer on the top, and then this is the timeline where you can see all the frames of your asset. In this case, I have kind of 20,000 frames for about 11 minutes of animation, or video in this case. So I can move around in the timeline just by clicking with the left mouse. I can move my CTI, my current time indicator, which is that little orange triangle. So I can go to a specific frame in the timeline. I can also play back by pressing the play, or you can press the L key in your keyboard. L key, when you are in the viewer, will play back your video, or if you press again there, it's gonna stop. Or again, you press L as a shortcut, or K if you want to stop. And then you can also play backward if you press the other backward play there. Or you can go to the initial frame or to the last frame. So you can move between frames. And also you can go frame by frame, back and forward. So you basically have an entire player there that you can use to navigate in the time of your multimedia asset. In this case, it's an MP4 video. And I can also click and drag back and forward the CTI. So you have many ways. You can also press the scroll wheel if you want to pan, just like you did in the node graph. And you can also zoom with the scroll wheel. You can zoom in, zoom out with the scroll wheel, just like you did in the other panels. So everywhere you can use the same navigation keys of your mouse. And that's a way, again, if you want to go in some details, you can zoom in. If you want to see the overall picture, you can zoom out. And there you go. So now we can move back and forward in the timeline and manage everything that will happen during the project, during your final output. Now in the properties, we also have the possibility to check the frames of the project and of the content that you're reading right now, you can see it's called read. It's called read because it's reading. It's reading what's inside this file, which is a series of images. And again, also in the viewer, of course, you can pan, you can zoom, you can right click also with the mouse if you want extra commands. And you can see they change depending on where you're right clicking. And that's basically it. These are the most important panels. We're gonna go more in depth in other videos. Again, we're gonna take it slowly. Now, if you select and press backspace or delete key, that's gonna delete the node. So if you wanna if you change your mind and you wanna import something else, so you can also press Ctrl Z, Ctrl Epsilon to go back and forward. And again, we can play. And so let's try with other formats here. So this is just an example with the video. If you right click, also in the edit, you'll find some commands that you can use with the nodes. So you can copy and paste, cut and paste nodes. And if you see here, you have, again, remove nodes or delete nodes with the backspace if you want the shortcut key. So I'm just going to remove it to add something else. So again, we are back to the emptiness of the empty viewer. Now let's try with an image. So I'm going to click and drag a single image. And again, right click properties if you want to know what this is before even importing. And that's JPEG. So JPG. And that's going to be fine with Netron. So a lot of formats are available in Netron. Now let's try this one in GIMP, which is XCF. It's another kind of more rare format. So if I click and drag, you can see that's not visible. You cannot see the preview. And now if I want to try to input this in the viewer, I can click and drag the little arrow, bring it to the viewer. If it doesn't do it automatically, you can do it manually. You can link things together manually. And that's nothing happening. So I'm going to delete it. And let's try with the JPEG, standard JPEG. Click and drag with the arrow. And now you can see in the viewer something is happening. So the bottom line is we can use a lot of formats, but not like each single format, unless there is like an add-on or plugin that can help us to do that. Now, another interesting key is the spacebar. With the spacebar, we can maximize a panel. So if I want to look more closer to the viewer, we can use that. So if I press the spacebar, there you go. Now it's a bigger space for the viewer, and I can scroll the scroll wheel to zoom in and press the scroll wheel to pan, and I can go back with the spacebar. So you need to familiarize a lot with these navigation tools. Also here in the node graph, if you want to look more closely, we can press spacebar. We can make it bigger. Now, if we lose here our nodes, well, there is that little yellow, let's call it navigator on the bottom right of the node graph panel. And you can also click and drag that yellow box. It's going to bring you, well, just bring it yourself in the nodes area. So it's going to help you whether you get lost or you want to find some specific node. Now I want to do another demonstration. I want to import a sequence of images, because this is another way that you can export from, like, for example, 3D software. Instead of exporting an entire video or recording with your camera or your smartphone, you can generate a 3D animation. In this case, I've used Blender for this, and you'll find also the Blender course and the Blender videos and guides in the channel if you look for them. So what I've done here with Blender is I exported an animation, but not as an MP4 or any other video format. I exported as a sequence of images. That sequence is basically, frames. Now I can either click and drag one single image, one single frame, or I can take all the frames that I want. So if I hold the Shift key or the Control key, I can select multiple files. In this case, I hold the Shift key to select all of them, starting from 0 to the end, and then click and drag inside. Now, the beautiful thing is that Netron will understand that that's a sequence. So it's a quick way to read, separated images and read them as a single footage. So if I unlink now by clicking on that and I link this other one, I will replace the previous single image with a sequence of images. And now we can see that I can move around. Let me just go back to the initial frame, and then I can play and see the animation, nice. And well, at the first time it could lag because it needs to cache, but then when you play again, it's going to be nice and fluid. But I'm going to explain to you more about the cache and the preview and everything in other videos. This is just, again, a quick first lesson to show you, really the basics of the various panels that we have here in Netron, and now we can start to use some nodes, and now how we can read. Now, if you want to discover more, you want to, have more info, more in-depth information, you can always go to the help and documentation. You'll find a manual, which is right now in my localhost, but also if you search for manual Natron software, you can find it online. So you can use the online Natron documentation for the latest version. And you have the user guide for users, and then you have reference guide with all the nodes explained, and then you have like developers for the ones who would like to also use the source code and do some programming. And if you go all the way down this page, you also find the PDF version you can download, and also the HTML version and the EPUB version. So anything that can help you, become better. And if you want to know more, again, if you want to know more in depth. So this will be all for this lesson. Subscribe to stay updated for more, and join the channel if you want to thank us, if you want to support us, and check also our other video courses and video guides in the channel about other software. Thanks for watching. See you in the next lesson.